Hello, everybody, and welcome to Compassionate Conversations. I'm Tanys Coughlan from My Place Home Care. I am joined by my beautiful co-host, Heidi Gagne.
Hello.
And we have a very special guest today, Caroline Inman. Welcome, Caroline. It's great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, Caroline has a very varied background in home care and senior care, really, overall, not just home care. So, Caroline, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing now and what you have done?
Thank you. Okay, so in a nutshell, I'm obviously from England. I came to Canada 18 years ago. We were only supposed to be here for 2 years. So in the 2 years that we were here, I wanted to do something that I had a very genuine interest in, which was actually funeral services. So when we were here just for the 2 years, I worked for Kelly Funeral Homes and realized that sort of outwardly serving was my vocation in life, and thought we were going back to the UK, ended up staying. And although I couldn't go on to be a funeral director just because of logistics and small children and husband in the military, I did want to continue with, as I say, with serving people. And I ended up starting as a client services manager for a home care company. And from there was able then to have my own home care company, and had that for several years. And then from there moved into seniors housing. So I spent another 5.5 years helping seniors and families navigate the often overwhelming world of again, retirement living, understanding long-term care, understanding services in the home. And then just recently moved on from that. And I'm now a director of residence relations with All Seniors Care here in Ottawa, and loving that. So I now sort of straddle 4 of our properties here, but still in senior care and seniors housing.
And what exactly is director of resident relations?
It's kind of a jack of all trades. The company was very, very kind to sort of create this position for me.
Wow.
And so I just genuinely help everybody at sort of the site levels with sales support, with operational support. I also do a lot of marketing, and I once upon a time was a journalist, so I'm still able to do a lot of writing, which I've been fortunate to do in all of my positions, and I love. So I am rewriting websites, I do advertorial copy, so a little bit of everything. But I'm on site a lot at the different homes and speak a lot with residents. And just try to make sure that we as a team are doing the best by those that live with us in our communities.
Wow, that is a very interesting job, and it's nice that you have multiple locations to go to, so like every day is a little different. And
every day is a school day so far. No, I honestly love it. The days fly by, and we have 3 homes that are in the East End that are more traditional retirement homes, but then we have a very special building in Kanata, which is actually the city's only dedicated and standalone memory care residence. So it's not only different to our properties, it's different to every retirement home that there is, because our clientele, or everybody has brain change, one form or another. We're supporting our residents through that journey. So I'm here today actually, and I do like being in this community, just because it's every day is different, but it is so different in itself.
It's interesting.
So you have all different types of brain change. So do you have any that are like acquired brain injury that are like
not? I don't believe is currently as part of our residents, but that's certainly something that we encompass. You know, as whether we've got dementia, we've got an Alzheimer's, we've got vascular issues post-stroke, or an ABI. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes we have higher care like Parkinson's, but there's also a little bit of brain change going on as well. So here specifically, we have only 71 suites. So it's actually quite a, comparatively, it's quite a small establishment. And then what's wonderful is that as a bungalow building, we've also then got like 4 little communities within the bigger community, and that's all built around 6 courtyards. So every little pod has their own secure, safe, beautiful outside space, but then the whole building is light and bright and airy and wide corridor. It's if you have, I'd love to welcome you ladies to just come and see. And anybody who's listening who may be interested in just sort of seeing what an alternate, like dedicated memory care community can look like, get in touch with me. I'd love to welcome you here.
Oh, that's amazing.
And
so
you'll find Caroline's information below too, folks.
Yes.
So is it kind of like a early version of the dementia villages that we've seen? I know in Europe, and then there's one in BC. Is it kind of like an idea of that?
No.
No. Okay.
Those are amazing. Like those are amazing, and wouldn't that be wonderful to have something, like that in our neighborhood? The courtyards is actually the passion project of one of our co-owners, a lady called Lily Goodman, who's a nurse by trade, and she is passionate about brain change and about really understanding that just because you have a diagnosis, you do not change as a person. You're not lesser than because you're now on a different journey. And our other buildings and our communities across Canada, because we are a Canadian owned and operated company, they have something called the Blossom program, which is again unique to us, which that stands for better living by overcoming safely and securely the obstacles of memory. So the courtyards is like the daddy of the Blossom program.
Okay.
And the Blossom program itself is, put it this way, if we're at home and we know that something's going on and the community living would be better for us, for our loved one, absolutely that's going to make a tremendous difference. But if we're at home and we are with cognitive decline and we are getting a bit discombobulated and we go into a retirement home and we are going to receive meals and housekeeping and laundry and what have you, but we're also discombobulated, that can be an additional fear factor for someone to move. With Blossom, we offer one-on-one dedicated supports as soon as you walk through the door in a small group of your peers, led by a Blossom coordinator. So you may be independent and autonomous, but you need that little bit extra. You need the cues and the redirects and the setup, and you need some therapeutic programming. And so as part of the Blossom program, which is 7 days a week, you're in a community within a community, but the anxiety lessens because you probably don't realize that you're being encapsulated and supported more because you're not fending for yourself on anything.
Right.
So the courtyard is like an extension of that, but Blossom runs in our East End homes, Cité Parkway, Beacon Heights, and Chapel Hill. So people can live independently, autonomously, and without having to go into memory care, off the bat. And we also have secure buildings. So again, even if you're like maybe mild to moderate, but you're not wandering, you're not exit seeking, you don't need to be on a secure floor.
Right.
You can live within our homes. You can't get out without your code, but you can go to activities. You can go to regular dining. You can go and swim in the pool. You can have your family in, and you're not being, you're not. You see what I mean? It's more about it's just more about the person and supporting just ultimate genuine lifestyle living with care and supports without sort of pigeonholing you or securing you behind a locked door.
Okay. So I guess that's kind of what to retirement living, there are many facets to retirement living. And as you age and as, things occur and you might develop dementia and all these other things that require extra care. What is it about, like, how do you pick where you want to live?
Yeah.
Like, that's a really scary thing. Like, I mean, finding an apartment is hard enough,
Never mind
buying a
deciding.
house.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's kind of threefold. And also always bearing in mind that although you're probably looking for today, you really should consider the future. Okay. Now, many of us don't know what the future holds. Absolutely nobody does. No. But some of us do. So if we do have a diagnosis, or we know that we have a degenerative disease, if we know we have Parkinson's, or we do have brain change, it's highly likely that over time we're going to need more supports. Mm-hmm. What I used to counsel families and seniors in is, are you okay to make another move? If you are, then pretty much the city's your oyster. But if you're not, and if you would like to make sure that where you go is your final destination, then the first part of those three is looking at homes that are able to do true aging in place. Because some will say, oh yes, we offer assisted living, and there's a lot of jargon that you've got to hack through in retirement. Oh yes, we offer assisted living. That's great, but their interpretation of assisted living is not what maybe true assisted living or full care is. So number one is identifying current needs and future needs, and making sure that the building can go to heavy care. Can they do a 2-person assist? Can they help with a mechanical lift should that ever be needed? Do they offer one-on-one nutrition? Can they feed your loved one, or if that's needed? So if the answer is, you know what, I don't mind. I really want to live here in this place, and if something happens, then I'll cross that bridge. But if you're like, you know what, that really makes sense, then you're narrowing it down. The next point is understanding your budget. So understanding what you're comfortable with, and understanding that rates, certainly there's rental increases after 12 months of occupancy, but that retirement homes are also able and do increase their care and services component of your monthly occupancy fee. So bearing in mind those rates increases. Mm-hmm. The one thing that in retirement, and I'm talking about like true licensed buildings as retirement living, as opposed to seniors buildings, which are like apartment buildings, like 55 plus communities that are not licensed. And so they're not regulated. They don't follow the Retirement Homes Act. But everything is pretty much included. So in that monthly rate, you are getting 3 full meals a day and your snacks and beverages. You are getting your utilities included. You're getting social programming. You're getting weekly housekeeping. Some communities include linens, so they'll wash your bedding and towels, and some even will wash personal laundry as an included fee. And then the biggest thing in a licensed community is you're getting 24/7 access to nursing supports. So even if at 3 a.m. on Christmas morning, you don't feel well, or you think you're having a heart attack, you have somebody there to triage you, make a decision, monitor you, that sort of thing. So that peace of mind is paramount, I think, in terms of it. And then the last point of the 3 is location. Some people really don't mind. I just want to find the best home, and I don't mind if that's Orleans or if that's Carp. Some people, I must be next to my children who live like within a 3-kilometer. The more open and broad you are to looking and having an area, then the more options you're going to find.
Okay. And what is like a wait time for some? Like, does it just matter of the building itself or of the company?
wait times within retirement living are not usually a thing.
No.
There are a handful of homes that are entirely full. Our home here in Kanata, the Courtyards, we only currently have 2 available suites. So we are consistently full, and we do often have a wait list. But generally, there's often availability in retirement homes. The biggest availability is going to be for independent living. So if you're wanting, you know, what I call the umbrella supports of the meals and company and housekeeping, if you want no to-do list and you're still independent, you might still drive, you know, then you're pretty sure of getting, you know, a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, what you're looking for within communities. Assisted living and memory care is harder to find because so many people wait, and unfortunately wait until times of crisis. And also buildings don't often have, they're not like assisted living or memory care heavy in their suites. They're independent heavy. So more inventory on independent. But generally there's not a wait list.
Okay.
Unlike long-term care.
Unlike long-term, crikey, completely different beast. Yeah.
Yeah. I think people tend to think that it's the same thing. You know, they think that it's all the same, and it's really not. So
no, they're very different.
Intrinsically different, yeah.
And maybe what's provided as well. Yeah. What is long-term care?
So long-term care in Ontario is like nursing homes. But the government of Ontario subsidizes every single resident. Now, the homes themselves are either owned privately by companies, they're either not-for-profits, or they're municipal. So like the city of Ottawa has some buildings. So regardless of ownership, the government is subsidizing the residents and is ultimately paying for all of your care and the supports, a hospital bed, a lift, a wheel. Like, you are still co-paying, and you pay your rent and board, basically. So although it's heavily subsidized with the government, you are still contributing, and so people do think it's free. If you can't financially meet like the baseline of what you're to pay, and I don't know off the top of my head, but it's about just under $2,000, you can be further subsidized. So that's the only time that the government is going to ask you to prove your income, because long-term care is not means tested. It's available to all of us with OHIP as long as we are qualifying on health criteria. But if you say, you know what, my income is only $1,600 a month and I can't afford the 19 what have you, then there's a further look and a further subsidy, and you are left with a small amount each month as like a little stipend for you to be able to start to purchase your own things, because you know you need your own toiletries, you need toothpaste, you need shampoo,
clothing.
Exactly. But everything else in long-term care is provided for you. But long-term care is, I mean, there's actually some new buildings, and there's one just gone up in Stittsville, which is beautiful. But it is a more medical, sterile-ish
more hospital
environment, whereas whereas retirement living is far more like hospitality driven. Like, we have some properties, you know, beautiful properties, and you know, crystal chandelier. I mean, whether that's important or not, but the aesthetic is a completely different.
Right. Well, because retirement living it can be much more independent. It's where you start.
Exactly. And you got, you know, like for instance, our properties, we have pools, we have gyms, we have bistros, we have a chapel, a theater, a hair salon. You know, it's like resort living. Everything's kind of on your doorstep. Whereas long-term care, it's very care orientated. And of course, anybody who has, you know, maybe aphasia, that they're on trach care, things like that.
Mm-hmm. It would be more plausible for them to do that instead,
Yeah, and sometimes finances play a huge part. I used to, about 95% of the work that I would do would be for hospitals. So social workers would call and they would be like, Mrs. Smith's with us, and unfortunately she can't go home, and she needs to be in a supported environment, and she has $4,000, which is not chicken feed, but her needs are X, Y, and Z, and it's like, that can't be met in the community. I'm so sorry. She would have to be a candidate for long-term care, which is why, coming back to your point, Tanys, there are such long wait lists.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
Now,
devastating.
There were a few like subsidized retirement homes. Is that still the case, or?
Yes. So through the city of Ottawa, you can apply. There's a handful in the city, but they're also very independently driven. So they can offer meals and laundry, and they can offer medication supports. So they can manage your pills. And then they will also rely on Ontario Health at Home caregivers. So that's, again, the government's agency in the province to provide home care through them. But the subsidized homes don't offer much more than that. So again, if a resident needs help to get up, if they need help to ambulate, if they have full continence care needs, that's going to be too much for those very light care retirement homes, which again brings me back to my point from before. When you're looking for somewhere, you must ask, what level of care can you go to? Because needs can change overnight. And again, if you know you're in a home that doesn't provide that, fine. If you don't ask and then you just assume because you're in retirement living it's going to help you wherever,
it might not.
Yeah, it might not. Yeah.
And are there many retirement homes in Ottawa that don't provide that next level of care? Are there?
Oh, there's more than 100 licensed homes in our little city.
Really?
And just outside, yes. And then there's also the non-licensed buildings, so like the 55 plus community. Right. So like we have a lot of options, and the sort of the filter goes up or down. So like pretty much everybody, but two buildings that I know off the top of my head, ours and one other, like the courtyards, don't offer independent living. Whereas many homes, independent living, absolutely. And then we get a little bit thinner, and then there's those that will offer a level of care support. So they may call it assistive living, they may call it independent supported living. So they will, be able to add on a little bit more. And then we go down, and then there's those that can provide higher care, and they're generally the ones as well that might have memory care. And then you get to the little bottom where there are like maybe 20 homes. I mean, that is just off the top of my head, that can do, as I say, the full care, the 2-person assist, the mech lifts, the feeds. Feeding is very, I wouldn't say hard to find. There are not that many homes that offer that as part of their service. So sometimes they would have to ask family to come in, or like yourselves, can we get a private caregiver to come in and feed mum? Again, shout out for our communities. That is included as part of our high care support. So should you ever need a feed, that's there.
So because I mean, that's a lot of staff. I mean, meal times are only so long, and if you're helping to feed somebody, that could take an hour to do. So how is it that some can provide that? It's
a choice. I mean, it's an absolute choice. Okay. And there's a cost associated to it.
Right.
But this isn't usually like one-on-one with feeding grandma in her room. This is, maybe two, three ladies at a table and one PSW who's doing it, or sometimes family just does want to come in. So I mean, it's certainly an operational decision, which is I think why we don't see so much of it, but it's something that is often very needed. So
which is why calling My Place Home Care is a way to help as well, because we can do that. It is possible. So then we've talked about retirement homes, we've talked about long-term care. What is your experience with home care, and how does working in home care differ from working in the retirement home long-term care sector?
There's sometimes it can be poles apart, and sometimes it can just be exactly the same, because you're always dealing with people. You're dealing with those that you're genuinely interested in wanting to support. And the biggest connection, I think, with those from home and for those who are moving into retirement is, which you absolutely will know, and maybe our listeners will too, is that loneliness is probably the biggest factor in both. And then all of the follow on from the cycle from where that would start. So I looked after some tremendous ladies and gents, me and my team, and being in home. And I know people are like, I want to stay at home for as long as I can. You're going to take me out in a box. And I am still a firm advocate of staying at home as long as it's healthy and safe. I absolutely am. But you also need to get your proverbial ducks up in a row. So, even if you've got a spouse, or, you're living with a family, a sister, or you're still maybe lonely after 6 o'clock, or your caregiver's visit is the best thing that's happening in your day. I mean, just like the services that you provide, getting ladies and gents out, getting them a sense of purpose is so important. Getting them well nourished, making sure they are taking their medications. I loved home care. I really did, but it's hard.
It is.
It's hard. And you've got a phenomenal team, and credit to you. I did it all by myself, and that was the wrong way for me to go in the end, because I had to step away. But everything I did through home care and all of my experiences and the people, that's grown me into Caroline of today. Absolutely.
Right.
And as I say, I have tremendous respect for those who are like, I want to stay at home. Okay, so what does that look like? Does that look like bringing in services like yourselves? Does it look like getting transportation arranged? Does it look like getting, home maintenance? Are your spaces ergonomic? Do you need should we remove your rug? Should we be putting in some hand bar rails in the toilets? Do you need a night check? Then absolutely, if you set yourself up for success, but then as well as that, have a next plan, because nobody knows that they're going to fall down and break their hip. Yes. And again, going back to the calls from social workers, you can no longer go home. And we know medical teams can tell you cannot go home, or if you do, it's against our medical advice. Yeah. So, are you then looking to get ergonomic changes in your home? Do you need to get your bathroom refitted so you've got a roll-in shower? Do you need to then have 6, 12, 24-hour caregiving support for that? Or are you looking to, for a community move?
It is very personal. It is a very personal thing. I mean, as a young, I'm in my midlife now. I mean, the thought of moving is so daunting. So I can appreciate why people would want to stay at home as long as possible. But I'm looking at my house and I'm like, oh, something happens to one of my husband or me with our hips or something like that. We have an old staircase. Our house is over 100 years old. We have an old curved staircase and narrow. I mean, getting a chairlift there is not possible. So I can appreciate why, thinking when you're still relatively, younger on what you should do. And I it's so daunting though. It's so scary to think about it, because I know if something were to happen to my husband, I would be moving. I wouldn't be able to maintain the house that I have. So it must be very difficult for those that have a partner who contributed a lot in their life into the household and then suddenly not able to do that. So I understand getting your ducks in a row and kind of thinking ahead and getting that idea and doing some research and reviewing these things, but still maybe have some home care going while you're doing all
yeah,
this.
it's short, absolutely, because that can be an immediate short-term need fix. I mean, most people have, their wills done, they have power of attorneys in place. Many people pre-plan their funerals. Brilliant. You're not here then.
Yeah.
But so many people don't think about this because, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. The thing about that is that you're often, and again, going back to someone who's in hospital who can't go home, your decisions are maybe taken away from you. Your choices are now reduced and limited. You might be making some knee-jerk reactions. You're not necessarily in control of the new environment. Whereas, had you done some research, had you visited some communities, had you planned, have you got contacts for home care and other agency supports, could be far less stressful. And just going back to what you said, like, fear is like the number one block to people making a change. And like you just said, Heidi, like, we're all roughly the same age, and oh my gosh, we'd be fearful of what have you. Everyone's fearful of a change, but as an older adult, that's even more so. And then say an older adult with brain change, or knowing, because you know in yourself that you're not as you were when you were 40. You know that you're not finding a word, or you're slower, and I don't know anyone who like just embraces that and says, you know what, this is it now. Most people are like, I want the status quo. Don't talk to me about that. Don't change anything for me. I need, boom, 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 boom. You're not the boss of me. I'm your parent. And that's when it can become so hard for like the sandwich generation, who can see and know that mum or dad needs supports, are trying to respect their autonomy still, but it's not necessarily then going to be safe. So like, certainly having conversations if you are like a loved one, a child of, and just like going with it, just acknowledging this is huge. This is absolutely huge. But what are you worried about? Is it finances? Okay, let's have a look at that. Is it new people? Is it just new space? Is it because you can't take your cat? Well, you probably can in a retirement home. Breaking down what it is. And kudos to those who do like move with all of this anyway, because it is huge and it is daunting. But then they get to the other side and they're like, I'm just like rocking this,
going to the theater.
Not so bad. I've made some friends. I get my like underwear wash. It's the mental block. It's the processing past that the changes.
Right. So there's one thing that I'm curious. So for a scenario, we have a husband and wife, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Mrs. Smith has Alzheimer's, and her cognitive level is decreasing. Mr. Smith can no longer protect her and keep her safe. She's starting to wander. So now we need to look for assisted living memory care for Mrs. Smith. Now they're going to have 2 households. How does that work? I mean, obviously they'll have their house, and hopefully it's paid for. They don't have a mortgage anymore, but property tax, but there's basic living expenses that you'll need. But now they have to pay for memory care for Mrs. Smith. How is that navigated? Because that would be very daunting, having to basically have 2 households.
So some people do that, but the majority will move together.
Okay.
And you don't necessarily, you can take 2 suites within a retirement home, or you could take, depending upon Mrs. Smith's ultimate medical assessment of her needs and her cognitive level, like they could be in a 1-bedroom on independent living with some supports for Mrs. Smith. Like say at one of our homes, they could be in independent living. She could get her medication management. She could join the Blossom program. So in the day, she's doing all of the Blossom activities, and Mr. Smith's got his own time to decompress and do what he wants to do, go out, go to his appointments, read the paper. They can have their meals together. And he's also, we want to take the care off the caregiver's shoulders, absolutely. But if he's like around, then that's great. They could then have 2 separate suites if Mrs. Smith really did need the higher supports, like the 24/7 nursing that's constantly on our memory care floors. Or they could have the 2 households. I mean, we have a lady who right now is in memory care in one of our homes, and her husband lives fairly close by, and he's thinking about a move because he is fairly independent. He does have Parkinson's. And the more he comes and sees how well she's getting on in the home, the more he's like, yeah, maybe this is me. But right now he likes going back to his apartment and doing what he needs to do. So, I mean, if you're blessed to be in that financial position where you are able to have a suite within retirement living with all of that and have your own home, then that's wonderful. Some people will sell the home, but then both will move in. And in that scenario, you often find as well, like Mr. Smith will have been doing a lot for a lot longer than the family or others would have realized in supporting his wife before we knew that she had really a diagnosis and where things were going. And he's going to be exhausted. And you help daily caregivers with the caregiver burnout and taking it off the caregiver's shoulders. And so like in retirement, we do too. So we invariably find, as I say, that the couple will move in and then just kind of go, you look after my wife. Thank you so much. But I'm very appreciative of the meals and the laundry and the pool and the social programming myself.
It does take that weight off of them to be able to do their own thing and feel, because it is a huge weight on the shoulders for caregivers. I mean, that's why there's so much caregiver burnout.
So we've mentioned that many, many times on our podcast.
Exactly.
And again, I don't want to ever sort of pigeonhole someone and say, oh, it's a generational thing, but those who are in their like late 80s, early 90s, it seems like so they have to do it. Like I can't not care for my wife because this is what I'm to do, and at the risk of their own health. But then the conversations then that like, thank you for all of the years that you have looked after her, but Jim, what happens to her when you have a stroke? Because that's a possibility the way that you're going right now. So what happens to your wife when you are not able to be that person for her? Well, I haven't thought about that.
That is a real question. My uncle was in that situation. My aunt had dementia and she had colon cancer. So she was incontinent. And, I was visiting them in Florida in 2018. And I'm talking to my uncle and I'm like, how are you doing though? This is a lot. And he said, well, I said, have you looked at a place for her that is that might, offer her the social and all these other things and the additional care. And he's like, she took care of me for years, so I'm going to take care of her. I'm like, oh, that's so sweet. But then I thought about it. I'm like, but really, when is your time?
Yeah.
When do you get to go? So, he has a neighbor come for an hour so he can go for a walk around the neighborhood and get his exercise in. And that broke my heart, because I love that he wanted to take care of my aunt because she did so much for him and took care of him in their marriage. But you also need to think about yourself, and it's not selfish thinking about yourself.
It's not selfish, but that's the mind block, the stumbling block for people to get over, that I'm failing you, I'm letting you down. You wouldn't do this if she was on the other foot, and yet you're doing more for your loved one by looking after yourself, so that you are there for them in other ways. Like I often say, now you've got some care and help, you're going to go back to being the daughter. You're going to go back to being the husband. Be your wife's love. You're not there to take her to the toilet anymore. You're not there to make sure that she swallowed her pills. And that's really important. Like, humans are so intricate, and obviously relationships run so deep. But you're not setting either of you up for success, our buzzwords, if you also are at the point of being on your knees through exhaustion and sheer mental burnout. And then you're both then in crisis.
Well, and in that case, when your uncle was saying she took care of him, he's now much older than she was. Trying to care for her. So there's the age difference. So our bodies tend to need more care as we get older. And so he's got double duty. He's needing to care for him and for her.
Yeah. And that's where home care would be really great. And we have many clients like that, where it's most of the time they're fine. There's still one partner is still quite healthy and active, but then, the other one isn't. And then that worry is there. So us coming in 9 hours a week, or, even 6 hours a day, and allowing that other person to recharge their batteries is so important. Now, it might not be sustainable for some people. Finances are real, and we all have budgets, and it's hard when you can't get the care for your loved one that you need because of money. But luckily there are programs with the Ontario Health at Home, get as much as you can for free, because you've paid into it your whole life. So let's use that. And
there's also tax breaks, so like I just totally talked over you then. I so didn't mean to. I was very excited to talk about tax breaks, Heidi.
No, that is a great conversation.
I'm glad somebody is.
But even retirement living, even in retirement living, you can claim back your care costs.
Really?
So absolutely. So you can. We provided a booklet every year to say this. Don't miss out on claiming back up to, over $10,000 in terms of what you can for medical. And even things like knowing that, if you get stuff on prescription, like if you get a doctor to write you that you need a hospital bed, for instance, that's claimable. And what I was going to say about finances, we've tried to pivot. So our 3 East End homes offer semi-private accommodations, but it's not just a studio. So you're not just like sharing one room with another lady or gent. Minimally, it's a 1-bedroom. So Tanys, you would have the bedroom space and I would have the living room space, or we have 2-bedroom options. And that's for under $5,000 with a full 1-person assist, full care support. So in a 2-bedroom, so you each have your own bedroom, you share the living room space, you share the kitchenette, you share the bathroom, but you've each got your own dedicated space with full care supports. So again, we're trying to be really appreciative of those who, as you say, budget is really a thing. They're either not wanting to go to long-term care, they're on the list for long-term care and are trying to be crisis moved. And even if we're a stepping stone, 3, 6, 9 months whilst you wait for your long-term care, you are going to be in a really fun, upbeat environment with superior care. and your own stuff around you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So 4630, little plug, 4630 is a 1-bedroom semi, so share with somebody else, with full care supports to one person assist, and that includes full continence care, if full transfer, one person assist transfer, one person assist ambulation.
So much to think about.
So
it is.
And it feels like it's just never too early to start thinking about what you want. I mean, now, like, what would I want now? But I know that it might change in 5 to 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we've said this before on our podcast, talk about it with your loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
Communicate, figure these out, be realistic, but be kind. Like, that's how I talk to my parents about this sort of thing. My dad turns 80 at the end of the month, and they have 15 acres of land. And I'm like, okay, but you can't keep taking care of that property. You're 80.
But is that keeping them young? On the other token,
it is.
Yeah.
It is. But he's also tired, and it's I don't know. It's hard to think about it.
It's a very individual process, right? Wherever those boundaries are for each person are pretty individual as to when they have to make a change.
But knowing the options, knowing what's out there for you, whether home care is what you want for the next 5 years, and then taking your time to figure out where you want to go. I think knowledge is the most important. And some people, when they put up that block, like Carolyn was saying, I mean, sometimes you can't be released from the hospital until you have all this stuff lined up.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You've got to have a healthy and safe onward destination.
We've had many clients that way, where they call us and they're like, yeah, they're being released tomorrow. What can you do? I mean, that's generally short-term home care for us, because they are waiting for a more permanent situation. But I mean, again, that's so hard on your own mental health to first go through the trauma of the injury, and then being in the hospital, and then not being able to go home unless somebody is there with you and caring for you, which is a whole other accommodation right there. Learning how to deal with having somebody there all the time and doing these things for you when you were really independent, and then moving into, like, that's so much change. It's so hard on people.
Well, and not doing the research, you're in that situation, you might find yourself having to choose a place just by pictures.
Yeah.
Okay? Because you can't get to them.
That's true. I mean, we would always, if somebody was in hospital and considering one of our communities, go in and meet with them. My team, show them pictures, go talk to them, do a FaceTime live with somebody back at the home so they can physically see it. But I've done that many a time when someone has been in TCU, transitional care, or if they've just been in a hospital unit, and can't go home. I can't get out to come and visit you. So I'm literally going to be choosing you from your communication and pretty much whether I like you or not, What I was going to say as well is respite stays in retirement can also be of benefit. If it's just too overwhelming to go home, or the injury or illness is just again, you're medically stable, so you've got to leave hospital. Right. You're not quite ready to go home yet, so coming into a respite, and I think we're one of the very, very few that has no minimum stays for our respites. Certainly for like independent or independent supported living. We don't. Many homes will ask for up to 30 days. We don't. We do have a 7-day for assisted living, but if you're coming in with assisted living needs, you're likely to need a minimum of 7 days before you're back on your proverbial feet again. Right. But that can then be a good transition. I've left hospital. I've identified a care provider. Let me go and get some R&R and strength. I'll communicate with my care provider for when I go home. They're going to be set up there to welcome me back and support me as I continue to need.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, as a home care company, we can also help with that respite in the retirement home or wherever they are doing that respite. Because for us, we really believe that the fit and that the relationship or the connection between the caregiver and the client is super important. So if you are on 30-day respite, well, the last week we can come in, get to know you, get to know your routine. We can help with packing. I mean, it's amazing how connected home care and retirement or long-term care is. And I don't think people realize how important that friendship is, because we have a ton of clients that live in long-term care or assisted living or memory care. And it just gives them that extra companionship, especially for those that are shy, that don't, like, yes, retirement homes offer all these great activities, but if you're the kind of person that's not going to get out of your apartment unless somebody says, come join us, that's also very, that's very daunting for somebody who is very much introverted and doesn't want to leave. We have a client who has vision issues, and they struggle to make friends because they can't recognize them later.
Oh,
yeah. So and they're very self-conscious about that, because they can't, if somebody comes up and says something to them, everyone wears a name tag, so you could get to know everybody's name, but they can't read it. So what do you do? How do you do that? So we come in, we take them to social hours and get to know people, and so that they can learn the voices, and the other people are aware that they have vision issues. So they'll say, oh, hi, Mr. Smith, we met last week. I'm the one that has, that I had the, the Maserati or whatever, and so right?
Well, you were going to say, I'm the one who had the cake for dessert and not the rice pudding.
Yeah. Nope, we're going Maserati.
Well, maybe they had a conversation about cars. I don't know.
Right. Yes.
I'm just spitballing here, but that sort of thing. And so having not only living in a retirement home, but having also a home care or a PSW or a companion or a sitter coming in and doing that, it just adds even more to their experience of living in retirement home. Because
and we've had clients as well where you've had they've been the home PSW has been with them for years, and then they go into retirement living, and they do continue to have them, because it's a great way to transition, because you still have some consistency of somebody that you already know. And so that's a nice way as well. I mean, it doesn't mean they have to continue forever, but it's a really great way to make the transition, for a few months.
Yeah. So again, about easing the fears. This is familiarity, and this is my friend, and they know me inside out. And I think what people don't maybe realize is that the retirement home is your home, so you are allowed to have external care providers come in, for sure. You can't be stopped for that, as much as homes will try and do. You're right. If you want someone to sit with you for a couple of hours and play Tetris, or take you out walking, no, retirement home staff can't do that extended one-on-one. So home care coming in is a great solution, and more so I think in long-term care. I would always sort of say to families, if you do have any extra budget, please put it towards a companion for your mum or dad, because they will benefit so much from that dedicated one-on-one. Because programming and things, that's not really the priority in long-term care, but having that one-on-one person who gets to know you and who can massage your hand, paint your nails, go push your wheelchair in the outside,
read a story,
photo books, read a story. That is ultimately like priceless in terms of what that individual will get. So I would always sort of say to families, even if it's the 3 hours a week, try you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we've seen the benefit of that. We've had a client move from a different retirement home to long-term care, and they thought, okay, it's not going to last long. And 3 years later, she has a designated caregiver that comes in 5 days a week and
Mhm.
takes care of her. And her life is,
The quality of life is
Yeah.
it's
better.
so much better.
That's the nail on the head. It's just improving someone's quality of life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that isn't that what we're here for? Isn't this what we do?
That's what we're all here for, right?
Showing compassion and caring and empathy towards our fellow people. And I know in retirement homes and long-term care, there is staffing issues always. There's always staffing issues, and it's difficult. And they are 100%, wanting to do all these things. And when they have 15 people they need to take care of, they might not always be able to take that extra 15 minutes to be with them and provide that. So I think the partnership and the teamwork between private care and retirement homes and long-term care should be advocated for way more.
And I think there is a distinction that I'd like to bring to this conversation, is that the public system, when you're getting personal support workers from the public system, they can't actually follow you into long-term care because it's both subsidized. And so the care that your PSW is providing from Health and Home Support Ontario is different. Like it's the same care. And so they can't double up on that. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So you may have to pay if you want this transitory service. There may be a component of private pay to do that transitory service if they have had public paid home care, and they're going into long-term care. Public pay will go into retirement home because that's just like another home. But going into the long-term care or the nursing home, it's the same pocket of funds. And so
exactly. And it's the same, you go into hospital, your home care stops, your public pay stops because the hospital's providing it for you.
That's right. Yeah. I just wanted to make that distinction in case people are wondering about that, because that does come up as a bit of a surprise sometimes when people have been on the public system. So
right, because theoretically you're supposed to be getting that when you go into long-term care.
Well, from the same provincial purse as well, from.
Yeah.
So you're getting it in a different way there. So
right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say
something. I just wanted to bring that forward because it's something that, having worked at, it was CCAC when I worked there, but at Health and Home.
They're rebranding. Yeah.
Exactly.
Like constant we're due for a new rebrand now. It's only been for like a year.
Yeah.
It's been about a year. Yeah. I've been with my place. I've been with my place for going on 3 years, and I think it's been two official names, but people were still calling it like the Lynn and Champlain Health and all that prior. So yeah.
Well, I've been in the home care business for over 30 years now, and it's been a bunch of different names. So I have trouble remembering which one it is at the moment. But when I was working there, it was CCAC. And I know that was something that it was a conversation that would come up about that, being from the same person, having to explain that is an interesting thing when you're dealing with stressed caregivers too. So something to know ahead of time when you're not so stressed.
Now, where can somebody, is there some general website that you can see the differences between retirement homes, or is it just, do you have to go to each retirement home or each home care company?
You can go to the regulator's website. So that would probably be a really good objective place to start. So it's the Retirement Homes Regulatory Authority, and very simply rhra.ca. They will have a list of every single licensed building in the province. But what you can do is you can filter by either retirement home name or address, I'd go with address, because sometimes you might think the name is blah blah retirement home, and it's actually bleedy blee when in its legal capacity.
Right.
So go with the address so you know that you're getting it. And then once you get that up, you'll be able to see the services that that home is licensed to provide. And you'll also be able to read reports. So there is mandatory reporting when somebody phones the RHRA and alleges neglect, abuse, and mandatory reporting from a retirement home. So say within memory care, Jim really wasn't happy and he knocked Harry on the head, that has to be reported. And then they have like spot reports when an inspector will just randomly show up on the doorstep and say, "Hi, I'm here from the RHRA and I'm here to just do a regular." So all of those reports are, they're not novels and they're not really fun to read, but you'll get an idea of whether there were any infringements. There's a special word which is not on the tip of my tongue right now. Compliance. Was the home compliant with what have you? So that's a really good thing to see. Also check to see if there's any registrar orders on a home, because that's a little bit more serious. That not to say that it hasn't been fixed and they've moved past it, but everything has to be transparent with a licensed retirement home. So you can have a look at that. And then even things like like it will show like location. What it's not going to give is your Google reviews. It's not going to give anything subjective. So that's why it's a good place to objectively start, because you're going to get the nuts and bolts information. Then, Google reviews are great, but they are subjective. So someone's going to have a phenomenal time at the same place that someone's going to have hated it. Yeah. The other thing to remember, that of the 100 plus retirement homes in Ottawa, every single home has people living in them. So every single home is right for somebody.
Yeah. Right.
And you might not like that one, and that's fine, because someone might not like the one that you choose. It's wonderful that we have choice. But as I say, knowing objectively what's provided and then reporting would be a good first step, and you might narrow down place that you want to see. And then I would just always advocate for like what we've talked about this entire hour. Just be proactive. Like, there's no harm in going to tour somewhere. Like there's no obligation. Maybe sign up for like when they have like some events, or go to open houses when there's like more like going on. Speak to people on your visits. Residents.
Yes.
Speak to residents. Residents will never not tell you the truth. Even if they, if they love it, you're going to know. If they, well, the soup was cold last night, they're going to tell you that. We have resident ambassadors who are those who really want to champion our homes, because they love and they believe and they live there for however long. Many homes have resident ambassadors, but speak to the people. Speak to the nurses or the team as you're passing them by. How are they interacting with you? Do you get hellos? Do you get smiles? Do you get how's your day? Because that's indicative of then the culture of the building, right. And try and again get past a salesperson. Salespeople are wonderful and they're very, very knowledgeable, but they're not a nurse necessarily. They're not the ED. Try and speak. Certainly, if you're going back because you might like I'm narrowing it down. Go and see if you can have a chat with the director of care. What's their care philosophy? What's the team like? What's my mum gonna do like day to day, because she does have dementia? No one should not be wanting to answer these questions. Should be open books. So yeah, that would be my advice in terms of trying to be as sort of informed as you can be. Just ask questions and go visit.
Another question that might be valuable if you do see the director of care is, how do you deal with a complaint? Simply because you would get the process.
Right.
Yeah. And that's telling on how they do problem solving.
Yes. Okay. I see what you mean. Same with an executive director or a general manager.
Yes.
What's your internal process? Because I mean, there's
Yes.
rules as well. So what's your internal process, and then what's an escalation of that process? I mean,
It just tells you from a business standpoint, kind of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where they're at as well, right?
That's a really solid point, Tanys. Yeah.
Yeah, that's important to know.
That's my
guess.
Yeah.
From an HR standpoint.
My HR standpoint, yeah.
I do. So I was reading, I think it was on a PSW Facebook page, and it just really hit me that it's so true. And it's talking about PSWs that are working in retirement home and long-term care, and in essence, home care, but I think it's more noticeable in home care. But you're working where people live. So remember that your workplace is somebody's home. And it does work for home care too. But I mean, when you're in a home care setting, when you're in a home, private home, it's a lot easier to know that you're in somebody else's space, in their private space and everything like that. But it really hit me. I'm like, it's so true though. You are working in somebody's home. So it may be your workplace, but somebody lives there. And so the whole idea of when you're going to look at retirement homes and see what the staff are doing. Are they smiling? Are they chatting? Are they, chuckling with each other? Because that camaraderie that the staff show as well is just as important, because you're going to see it every day. You're going to live it every day. It's the people.
Absolutely. Yes. We as a team, as staff, are there to support and ultimately serve our residents. You're absolutely right. It's their home that we happen to be in.
Mm-hmm.
And again, being able for them to sort of utilize their space to their own, but also know that we are there to be respectful of that. As you say, that's a really important balance. And you can go in and see that it's maybe not a great utopia, or equally that everybody is really, really happy living and coexisting together.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and just sit in the main room, wherever, whether it's the dining room or the lobby or recreation room, and just feel. What do you feel there? Is your body comfortable there?
Mm-hmm.
It's also about how you're going to feel. And so all of these factors kind of play a role, right? What does it look
Absolutely.
like? What's happening? How are people acting? How do you feel when you're there? Because if you're going to be living there, you need to be comfortable.
And that will be your decision making. If everywhere's doing the same level of care, and if it's the good location and pricing is right, you will be making your decision based upon how you actually are made to feel, or how you feel in that environment. And you're right, someone will choose a place because of that, not because of the gold taps or 16 meal options. Right. How they feel.
And as a caregiver, or as a loved one, a child of your parents, you really need to pay attention to that. And you need to listen to them when they say, I got the ick, I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
Of course they could say that to everything, because they don't want to move, which would be difficult to navigate, I'm sure. But remember that they're going to be the ones here that are 24 hours, 7 days a week. They need to not have that ick. They need to feel comfortable and happy. And it just helps with that transition even more. But yeah.
Well, my dears, we have gone over the hour, which is amazing. Yeah. So full of so much information. And it has been such a pleasure having you on, Caroline. It's great to see you again. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for the welcome and for the invitation. I've thoroughly enjoyed talking for the last hour. No, I genuinely have. It's been wonderful. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing your wisdom and your insight and your experience.
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. And don't forget to come back and join us again for Compassionate Chats next month, and we'll see you all soon. Take care now.
Like and subscribe.